Testing 1, 2, 3. Microphone check 1, 2, 3. All right. Sound check's good. All right, guys, we can talk about whatever. What's going on with you guys? Scorpio, what's up? Jill Moser, how you doing? Julia, always good to see you. Let's do it. What do you guys want to talk about? I want to talk about Baphomet, but we can do that later on in the stream. What's going on with you guys? You guys know what Baphomet, what that is? What's up, Patty? Phil Bond, good to see you. West Memphis 3, we can do that. Ivy Push, great Richard Allen is bridge guy. Period. Good to see you, Ivy. What makes you say that, Ivy? Right? How do you back that up? If I was to challenge that, what led you to come to that conclusion? Yeah, I whipped up this thumbnail and I was like, you know what? First, I was going to use the Donnie Darko rabbit. And then I was going to use the source of where Donnie Darko got that rabbit from a creepy movie. Then I just figured I would throw him in the background, use Alice in Wonderland. And then you got the Matrix, right? Morpheus. No more living in Never Neverland. So I threw them up in the mix. Julia Byrne says it's medieval stuff, right? Partially. You're partially correct. That's how it did start. It is very historical. Templars, things like around that time. That's where it all started. This androgynous, horned being. Not really a being, more of like a it's more of like a metaphor, really. But I mean, in reality, it's just Satanism. You can dress up a turd, but it's still a turd, no matter what. Ivy Push. He put himself there first. Absolutely. He changed his story. He said, I was there from 1:30 to 3:30. That was written down in the notes. And Dan Doolin forgot about the notes. So he had no reason to lie, right? He thought he was cleared. So why would he lie? Why would he try to put him there, right? He's just going to write down. And for all we know, Richard Allen may have even written that down. And also, when he came into his interview, he said, as far as I know, no, he really didn't know when he was there. He never said for certain. He said probably around that time. You know, he really wasn't sure when he was there. Let's see what else. Self-admitted he was selfish for sexual attention, opportunity to get what he wanted until things go as planned. Well, I mean, that's kind of erroneous, that part. But yeah, he put himself there is definitely solid. But what's his nexus to the actual crime, to the crime scene? What separates him from the rest? One of these things is not like the other. One of these things doesn't belong. I know you guys remember that. Not medieval, that shit full evil. But dumbass. Doo-doo. Shh. Yeah, Dan Doolin changed the time on the tip sheet. That's not true. I don't think that's accurate, Ivy. I think Dan Doolin just wrote down what Richard Allen told him, and Richard Allen was being honest because really all he had to do was keep up his story because he probably thought somebody recognized him. Not only that, his wife knew when he was out there, roughly, right? So he was more concerned about her suspicions. If he put her suspicions at ease, nobody else would really ever find out that he was out there. Maybe one or two people that were really close to his inner circle. So he just went and told Dan Doolin, hey, I was out there. He probably, if he's connected with the Kleins or any of that, he was probably trying to establish an alibi. And that's why he went to his mom's, right? Went to his mom's and probably had a cell phone there that was running. Maybe even somebody using it, just like they were doing with Kagan Klein, hypothetically. But because he's so nervous and paranoid, everything for him is being proactive and even more reactive. So it's all countermeasures, right? Clumsy, 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 tripping over his feet. But then when it comes to wiping away his footprints, he's really good at it. He's bad at leaving them, but once he realizes that he's left it, he's pretty good at hiding it. But yeah, as far as the West Memphis 3, uh, deeply disturbing. I have no faith in the justice system whatsoever or law enforcement. I know a lot of them, and most of them are great, good, heroic people, but a lot of them are really just power hungry and having a system where you're judged by a jury of your peers. You know, it's really strange. Especially when we see how easily people can be manipulated. So I try to help you guys see red flags. I have a talent for seeing snakes. Julia, do you think Kathy truly believes Richard Allen is guilty, believes he's innocent, or isn't sure? Right now, what I think is that Kathy was extremely suspicious at first, right? She's like, that looks like my husband. So I think she lied on the documentary. I think that's the first thing she said, damn, that could be you. Rick's like, no, I didn't even go on the bridge. She's like, really? That I mean, right? Well, you were out there. Like, what the hell's going on? And then she probably became even more suspicious when she was like, hey, let's go search. Now imagine the killer part of the search party alongside the witnesses. And she's like, why aren't you wearing your blue coat? Right? Everything just falls apart at that point. But because he stumbles over his feet and he's able to pick up his mess and clean up his mess really good. He's able to use countermeasures, right? He's kind of able to kind of look at things Machiavellian, right? He's able to prioritize and plan out and see things play out into the future. Very Machiavellian, in my opinion. Ivy push. It's true. At first, it was 1 to 3, then changed it to 1:30 to 3:30. Oh, yeah. But he said, it could have been it roughly. He did change it. You're right. But he didn't change it really. He didn't change it like he did with um, during his interviews, right? That's what I meant. But yeah, you're right about that part. I feel like the sleazy attorney gaslighted her into believing his innocence. You know what, though, guys? They didn't have a choice. I mean, think about it. They knew he's guilty. That's why they didn't have their own specialist do the ballistics and do the analysis on the tool marks from SIG, because they knew the risks. They can do the math. They can read the writing on the wall. They knew there was a good chance that Rick was guilty, especially when he started confessing. But it's weird. You have to have like this weird, I don't know, symbiotic relationship with your client, I think, right? Like you got to kind of have a plan that's they're both going to work with. You have to somehow be working as a cohesive unit because you're representing your client. So if he's not really talking, he's being weird, he's not really admitting it, but he is, like, what the hell are you going to do? So if he comes in there to an interview, with his attorneys and he says, "Oh, the Odinist guards," like he's playing his hand. He's realizing that, hey, I need to play ball. I need to give them a direction that I want to go. And then once I give them that direction, they're just going to have to do the best that they can. And the reason that Rick Allen went that direction, because he's been online. He's been stalking everybody on social media, most likely at work, right? Nobody's going to be able to access those records. You can't get a warrant for that. I'm pretty sure of that. Don't quote me on that, but I'm almost certain of it. Also, burner phones, laptops that nobody knows about, keeps it in the desk drawer at work, grabs it sometimes when he goes to lunch, logs on to the McDonald's free Wi-Fi right there across the street, and does his thing there. After the crime, he throws the laptop away along with the knife, the box cutters. So, the attorneys didn't have a choice. They had no choice whatsoever. What are they going to do? Just concede? Hell no. Richard Allen had to throw him a bone, and then they went and did the best that they could with that. Right? That's when they went back to the discovery and searched specifically for terms of Odinism, Asatru, Norse paganism, things like that, to kind of find anything that fit with what he was saying about those guards. But the first time these attorneys ever heard the word Odinism is through Rick Allen. It's because he was on social media, you guys. He saw Brad Holder. He saw everybody going down that angle early on, right? He's thinking, well, on this laptop or phone that nobody knows about, on Wi-Fi that doesn't lead back to him, he's doing all his nasty shit, and he's also following social media. The Sleuth Intuition channel. Remember that one time we profiled him almost perfectly, down to the fact that he had mother issues and that it was his backyard? I mean, we were spot on, guys. That kind of gave me chills when they're like, "Oh, he lives a mile away and that's like one of his favorite places to go." I was like, "Damn, we're good." We might not be professionals, but the proof is in the pudding sometimes, right? If you are creating results, shit, that's what speaks to me. What's up, Eli? But yeah, social media, Rick Allen's following Brad Holder. He's seeing all this Odinism, right? He's seeing the sticks. And it's not that that's what he did. Like, he just knows he was a crime scene expert. When it came to the Delphi murder case, Rick Allen was the only crime scene expert. There's nobody above him when it comes to knowledge about the crime scene, unless others were involved, right? But as far as it is right now, nobody surpasses his knowledge of what was going on at that crime scene. Nobody. Till this day, he's still the only true expert because he's the creator. He's the artiste in his mind. So he's looking back at his work, right? Psychopathy, or like the arsonist. I'm going to sit back and watch it unfold. Well, while he's watching all of that, he's seeing Brad Holder being named as a suspect. He's stalking his Facebook. He's seeing that Abby and Logan, and for all we know, there was an inappropriate relationship with Libby or Abby, or Rick Allen could have been grooming, stalking, maybe possibly even upset about Anthony Shots. Libby spent 3 seasons at Riley Park. There's only a few different photos of Rick in certain locations in Delphi. One is the Monon High Bridge Trail, the other is Riley Park. Rick Allen and Abby and Libby have those two locations in common. So if he's the crime scene expert, right? And he's like, well, I left all these sticks at the crime scene. I covered them with sticks. And they're looking at Brad Holder. He's going to be the one to piece it together first, right? He sets the trap for Brad and Andy because they're eager. They need something to go on. You know, they need a pathway. Okay, where are we going with this shit, man? Like, this dude's obviously guilty. Where are we going to take this? In walks Rick talking about Odinism. Why? Because he knows that Abby was dating one of the Logan boys, or the Holder boys, sorry, and that he was into Odinism. So this is him, a very sloppy person, but when it comes to countermeasures and once again being Machiavellian, right? He's playing chess with his mess, with his cleanup. He's trying to put all the pieces into play. So he knows that cause and effect, he launches this Odinism idea into the minds of the spin doctors, and they're going to go off to town. They're going to find all this stuff in Brad Holder's Facebook, and they're going to find this, and Abby's dating one of the boys, and he knows what pathway they're going to go down because he watched the YouTubers do the same thing, and he thought it was interesting. He's like, damn, like that's why he was so confident. He's like, they're never going to find me. He watched us all try to zoom in on the face and analyze it and get it wrong. But as the crime scene expert that Richard Allen is, he was able to put together the case before Brad and Andy had any idea what Odinism or Norse paganism even was. All right. He got too comfortable with his freedom, in my opinion. 6 years, sick son of a bitch, thought he'd get away. Yeah, he did. They got it wrong. Remember the Brian Chadwell debacle? Well, Baldwin likes the limelight. You know what I mean? It's good for business. And there's no way that you could go back on, you've been pushing for 3 years for this guy's innocence. It would just be bad for business if all of a sudden you were like, yeah, we worked the best with what we could, with what we had. But the guy, he's guilty, right? They found him guilty. That's not going to look good for his future clients. Like, wait a minute. You're sitting in a consultation and you're like, wait, Baldwin, where have I heard that from? Oh, you were the guy who defended Rick Allen. And then afterwards, you said you thought he was guilty. Like, fuck that. I ain't hiring you. It's just a bad look. 38,000 people and Ricky Hill and 2 other names. Oh, I remember Ricky Hill. Ricky Allen Hill. There is so much out there that many of you have not heard or seen, and I am going to spill it all, including Jinx. Yeah, Ivy, we're not going to do any of that kind of stuff. We're not here for the drama. Save the drama for your mama. That reminds me, good time to go ahead and put up the rules. Put up the rules. Put up the rules. Chat rules. Stay focused. Avoid becoming a distraction to the conversation. That's rule number 1. Rule number 2. No personal attacks. Respect all participants and refrain from insults or targeting individuals. No ad hominem attacks, please. No trigger trolling. Do not engage in or provoke disruptive behavior or arguments. No mention of other channels. Keep discussions within the current chat and avoid becoming or mentioning other channels. Thank you. Thank you for your cooperation in this matter. Please continue. CJK is in the building. The baby is wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Richard Allen knows that there shouldn't be a casing at the scene because he knows what happened to Libby and Abby. Yeah, he thinks it's a trick, right? He lost it and he doesn't realize it. So I don't know if he said he keeps one in the chamber or not. But what I could see happening is he keeps one in the chamber because he's going out there, right, to do something bad. So when he's up on the bridge and he forces the girls down the hill, maybe that's where he chambered another round while ejecting the one onto the ground. So he realizes that, reaches down, picks up the unspent bullet, and puts it in his coat pocket or his jeans or whatever, maybe his jacket pocket. And when he takes his jacket off to begin staging or killing the girls, or I think maybe he had his jacket off and was holding it in his arms, because I believe that he would take off his clothing. And the fact that he made the girls undress and he was comfortable enough, I think that he undressed as well. I feel like he's done this before. I feel like he may have taken somebody across that bridge. Maybe these names that he was naming, right? Maybe at one point he did do those things down there where he had all this privacy. I mean, how else does anybody get that comfortable? And the reason I think that he undressed is because the only way that Abby and Libby had time to get across that creek would have been him putting on his clothing. Or he would have killed him right there, I think. But that's why he was so angry, and that's why it looks so violent with Libby. Because that's him going through that cold water, being frustrated, being scared, being paranoid, and then having up all this built up anger, right? It's not anger, it's probably rage. And as soon as he catches Libby, it's on for him. It's one of those weird horror movies that he likes. Just bloody. And then he snaps out of it. Oh my God, what did I do? Right? A fledgling killing. What have I done? Libby's like, please don't kill me. Please don't kill me. He says, I'm not going to hurt you. Right? They're always lying. I'm not going to hurt you. Don't scream. Wrap something around her mouth. And then tells her to get dressed. Right? Get dressed. I'm going to let you go. Well, I don't have, where's my clothes? Here, put that on. Libby's pants and her shoes are right there. And her hoodie. She dropped him. She puts it on. He tells her, sit down right here behind this tree. I don't want anybody to see you. Sit down back here. Do not move. Well, when she went to put on the clothes, she found the phone. She's like, here's the phone. She puts it in the shoe, sits Indian style, hiding the phone. While he's moving Libby, she's trying to access the phone. Something's wrong, right? We found out during trial that somebody tried to access the phone. I think it was her. It was muddy. Maybe even, I think they said there may have been blood. I can't remember. Don't quote me on that. So she's trying to hide it under her. And then once he's done hiding and doing all this weird stuff, staging Libby, he just simply walks up and surprises Abby, grabs her, cuts her, and then that's it. And then he covers her in sticks and walks away. That's what happened. I'm almost certain of it. That could all be done by Rick Allen. Oh, but little Rick. Well, I'm little Sleuth. You know what I mean? I'll take it to the streets with any of these fools. You know what I mean? And my reputation growing up is proven. So I'm saying you can't underestimate people. Yeah, there's limits and there's weight classes for a reason. But you just can't underestimate people. Don't do it. So I can see Rick being underestimated. That's probably how I won the majority of my street fights. Oh, please don't hurt me. Please don't hurt me. And then here comes that perfect, right hand, left hand, or hit to the liver. Don't underestimate anybody, even big, fat, sloppy people. I've seen big, fat, sloppy, goofy footed people run a mile in 6.5 minutes. It's a sight to behold. So many possible scenarios. It's scary. I got myself in situations as a teen that could have turned out south real quick. There'd be nothing. Yeah, I saw a lot of violence as a child, and my parents had no clue. No clue whatsoever. My wife's sending me pictures of my baby sleeping because she knows my family. They want all the photos. Real quick, and there'd be nothing. Yeah, I mean, I saw a lot of violence. My parents had no clue. I can't remember who left the comment, but it was under one of my Abby and Libby videos. And they said, what was Abby doing dating at 13? I don't know. I was dating way younger than that. I think I had my first French kiss when I was in 3rd grade, and she was a 5th grader. Right? It's not really dating. It's just like, do you want to be my girlfriend or my boyfriend? Someone to talk to, and it's like you're getting ready for real dating, but it's not real. You're not going on dates. They don't have cars. They don't have money. It's like, oh, your dad visits Delphi, and I ran into you at the park. Can I have your phone number? Yeah, we come to Delphi all the time. Okay, well, here, let me get your phone number. They start talking. Next time they come to Delphi, let's meet up again. Shit like that. She Warrior. Melissa Wildcard. Yes, Melissa. She sure did. She Warrior. I can't believe how wrong I was all these years about the West Memphis 3 case. I'm curious about your opinion originally, Scorpio. Like, what got you? Like, we talked about this briefly. For me, it was introduced to me in a very biased way, right? Paradise Lost, HBO's version. Very misleading. And the problem is people have these preconceived notions about documentaries and law enforcement, and even doctors and scientists. Like, they know what they're saying, and like they wouldn't lie about it. I call them atheist preachers. Right? You have an atheist preacher who walks into a church, preaches a sermon to a group of Christians, and he doesn't even believe in. He's just hoping to pass around the plate. So that's why I refer to them as atheist preachers. Because even though they're preaching the gospel, they don't believe one word of it. They have ulterior motives. What's up, DL? Not a troll. You still have that on there. What time was the phone accessed? This isn't the 2 a.m. ping you're referring to, right? No, I can't remember what time it was. Have to go to my notes. I'm sure somebody can find that, but it was mentioned during the trial. And remember, Abby had a phone, so if she's hiding it from Rick, she's trying to place the call right. He's over here doing all this weird shit, staging the crime scene and trying to cover Libby, and he probably hasn't made a decision yet on what he's going to do with Abby. And that also could be the reason that while he was locked up in prison, he made that comment. I'm sorry for what I did to Abby. Because what he did to Libby, he did in a fit of rage. And he probably doesn't really remember a whole lot of it. He knows he did it because when he came to, he was covered in blood and she was no longer alive. But part of him, he probably blacked out a little bit. We're all so mean to him. Yeah, he plays usual suspects role very well. Right? Even when he walked into the interview. Here, let me see if I can play that. You guys familiar with that movie, Usual Suspects? They're looking for the mastermind behind this criminal enterprise. And they're interviewing this guy who looks meager. He's got a limp. He looks like he's disabled even. Right? He's got a twitchy little hand and he's dragging a club foot. But as soon as he steps out of the interview room with law enforcement, his walk is fine and he's good to go. Right? They got played. I think Rick lived his whole life like that, compartmentalized, but also like a chameleon, looking like the little guy, playing into it like, oh, little old me. And then when no one's looking, he thinks of himself as a beast. The Red Dragon, the Great Becoming. Mr. Lowndes, why did you print lies about me? Where are we at here? Okay, let me share my screen. So I just want to show you how Richard Allen walks into the interview room. It's just like the Usual Suspects movie. Dee 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 dot. Watch his walk right here.
Yeah, great. See you later, Richard. Thank you.
He just comes wobbling in like a penguin.
There it is. I think he did. See you later, Richard. Thank you.
It's like I can't even walk. Like you can flop like a fish, but you can't walk. What's wrong with you? You might walk over, but you're limping back.
Yeah, great. See you later, Richard. Thank you. I don't know if I gave you one of my cards. There it is. I had to give it. Yeah, great. See you later, Richard.
He's like kind of hunched over. He's like hunched over, like, oh, And then look, he panics when he sees that Tony Leggett is joining them. Watch him.
I don't know if I gave you one of my cards. There it is. I had to give it. I think he did.
He's like, wait, there's two of you? But yeah, you get the point. You get the point. Scorpio says, I was pro West Memphis 3. Thought that the confessions were fed to the kid. And yes, there's some leading in those confessions, but a lot of it were true. Also, after going through the documents. Yes, exactly. That's how I felt. because that's what appeared. It's easy to be manipulated when you don't educate yourself on the matter. And that's what I was. I was ignorant, right? I was easily manipulated, and I related to those boys because I was a little bit different. I was into the occult, and I wasn't like a emo kid or anything. I was always more of a stoner slash like gangster kid or whatever. Hung out with the hip hop crowd, people breakdancing in the gym and freestyling and then getting into trouble on Friday and over the weekend. Stuff like that. So I related to them. And I was definitely not pro police because, I spent my young youth being violated by law enforcement plenty of times unjustly. Like, yeah, I probably had it coming, karma wise. But I mean, yeah, I was definitely, my life was threatened. I was beaten. I was literally kidnapped and thrown into another city that I had a misdemeanor warrant for. No paperwork. One time they pulled me over and stole my gun. When I tried to recover it, it just disappeared. It was a collectible. I spent a lot of money on that. Never got it back. It just disappeared. But when you're young and dumb, people take advantage of you. There's no way they're innocent. Yeah, if you listen, and that's one thing that they did, Scorpio and the Paradise Lost documentary, was they took things out of context. Like they didn't include all the stuff that Jesse was saying in clear, like he was speaking clear English about the Colts and them eating animals. Like they touched on it, you know what I mean? But then they kind of made fun of it and tried to say it was, satanic panic or whatever. But when he went into detail about Jason and Damien like performing fellatio on each other, I saw a perfect image of what the fuck happened out there momentarily. Like them in the water, just like young teenage boys in an area like that. But they just happen to be depraved and sadistic. Because I've seen it before. I've seen um you guys know what evil looks like. We all know what it looks like. It has a smell. And when you hear those confessions, you just know. It's very different than a Richard Allen confession or somebody being pressured and coerced in an interview, because you can hear the stress in their voice. They're not going to be coerced into self snitching if they weren't under some kind of pressure, possibly even like some kind of induced psychosis. So you're going to hear that in their voice. But Jesse, he was calm as a cucumber, giving clear details. But of course, you have to remember he's also a psychopathic killer. He's going to give them his version with half truths. He's not going to put in all the diabolical stuff that he did. He was probably doing the sexual assault and, about it. He was probably all for it. But when he's confessing, just like every other sick, sadistic killer, they don't want to put in anything that makes them look bad, right? Because they want to be part of the team. If they feel like they're part of the team, like, hey, we're working together, right? We're working to achieve a common goal. And law enforcement is really good with their interviewing techniques at making psychopathic killers believe that. Like, hey, man, you're one of us. Like, hey, we're working together. We're going to help you. Like, if you're honest with us, it could go really bad for you. Or, if you lie to us, it could go really bad for you. But if you're honest, like, we can work together. Like, if you can help us, we can bring closure. Then that's when the cat and mouse starts, right? Like, oh, okay, they need information from me. Well, if I give them all the information, they no longer need me. So I have to dose it out. What up, Mark? Scorpio, there's so much evidence against them. It's shameful that celebrity money and pressure got them out. It's shameful to the country. But it's a huge victory for the rebellion, right? And that's why I wanted to talk with you guys about the Baphomet, because that's all it represents is this rebellion, right? They say, oh, it's not satanic. It's just about rebellion and resistance. Okay. Well, what are you rebelling against, right? Yeah, well, they're rebelling against God. And what are they resisting? Christ, our Savior. That's what that's who Lucifer and that's who Satan is. He's the leader of a rebellion. I know they got out with admission of guilt, but it's still shameful. Well, it is. Like I was saying on the latest Delphi live stream that I did. It's black magic. It's a satanic ritual. That's what this is. That's why you see all these people getting involved. It's not because they feel that they're being railroaded. It's because they know that they're guilty. And they've probably done similar things, similar rituals. That's black magic. It's sex magic. And we know that because the boys were inspired by Aleister Crowley and Thelema and Baphomet.
Bop, bop, talima.
Waddling in like a little penguin. Little old me. It wasn't me. It was the one-armed man. What's up, Nakia? How you been? At the beginning, he does Bridge Guy Gate twice, dragging that foot a bit. Scorpio, he was awfully fast in the bridge. This guy's actually very calculated. All he does is deceiving. Absolutely. And somebody left a great comment on the video about how once Richard Allen saw Betsy Blair, I think he was going to sexually assault her. Remember, he could pull her off at any point over there. That's where the deep woods begin. There's also a down the hill on the north side, right? You follow that trail towards the cemetery, it brings you to the crime scene. There's a trail that literally would go right next to the crime scene, and then you can either go to the cemetery or up to Ron Logan's property. Well, they left this person left a comment, and he made a great point. So Richard Allen saw Betsy Blair. She looked at him briefly and said, well, I'm not going to be hanging out with this guy. So as soon as she turned around, he started getting off the bridge. He went to go after her. He's like, I'm going to pull her into the woods and I'm going to rape this woman. So she's very lucky that she survived that. She was right there. So he's following her out. And the way the trail curves, she had no clue. He's kind of following right on the edge of the curve where he can barely see her on the edge of that radius. He's just like, she's right there on the cusp. And he's probably thinking, I think I'm going to go after her. But instead, she gets in her car. She passes Abby and Libby, gets in her car, sits there for a while. And then he watches the cars, right? Kelsey doesn't really notice. And Betsy doesn't really notice Kelsey. She's busy, and Kelsey only stayed momentarily. So they're only there together for a brief moment. And once Richard Allen sees that Kelsey's leaving, it's at that very moment he knew what he was going to do. I'm all alone with these girls. But it took him a while. Once he seen Betsy, it took him the amount of time to get off that bridge to make it back there. And that's when he sat on the bench, in my opinion. Yeah, it's pretty awful. Atrocity bubble beard. And I now stand corrected. If the DNA comes back and what's that? What's Memphis 3? If the DNA comes back confirming them, can they be put back in prison? Yeah, that's new evidence. I think they can. You can be tried. Well, the thing is I don't know if they can be put back in prison or not with the Alfred plea. But I know when it comes to double jeopardy, the only way that you can be charged again is if there's new information. But I believe that their DNA will come back. I believe it. I could be wrong, but I feel like because part of the Alford plea was that they can't test anything. That was part of the agreement. Like, hey, if you're going to agree to this, nobody's allowed to test anything. You guys are guilty, but because of these special circumstances, you're going free, right? Improprieties and whatnot. So, with Damien fully aware of that information, what he's going to do is exploit that, right? Knowing that they can't test it, if he goes around, hey, advocating for new DNA testing, it makes him appear more innocent. And that's what a psychopath would do. Now, what is great is that they call this bluff, right? Or he's just innocent. Also, that could be the case as well. What do I know for sure? All I know is that based on Jesse's confession, I'm convinced. And anytime you see Jesse sitting with Jason and Damien, he's just like, wow. He's like, you guys really are wizards. Because in a way, they are, right? You think Johnny Depp is protecting them because he thinks he's innocent? No, he's protecting them because that's his duty, right? This is another child, another servant in Satan's army conducting the black magic. He wants it to be successful as well. And it was. They conducted their satanic ritual and they got him out. That's what the whole HBO documentary was about. That's what all of these dark-hearted Hollywood types, that's why they heard the calling and came to the rescue. It's not because they thought they were innocent. It's because they knew that they were guilty. And hypothetically, and I don't know, this is just speculation and, what do I know? But I wouldn't doubt it if Johnny Depp had committed these types of crimes. And that's why he's relating to Damien. And I wouldn't doubt it if they committed a crime like this since. Hypothetically, of course. Not to mention if Damien wasn't marketable on a very satanic way, celebrities like Depp wouldn't have blinked an eye at this case. Yeah, it's their duty. It's the magic. That's what magic is, guys. You don't see it, but this manipulation and all this gaslighting and energy, it's really all about energy. Yes, Julia. These are the things that I think about when I'm looking into the case alone. I can't help but think about Richard Allen being there because of the Anthony Shots account, involving the Las Vegas trip, everything down, all of it. And him being promised money, looking at his ticker, that's him trying to convey his issues, his monetary issues, his financial problems, right? A lot of these missing people who end up being found with self-inflicted wounds, the majority of it is financial problems. And then when the investigative team goes to look at why they did this and why the finances, usually the finances are intact, right? No bankruptcies, just bills stacked to the sky, but no bankruptcies. All the vehicles are owned, the house is owned, the business is in good standing, no debt. But that's because this person is so pressured at being on time, and something was so instilled in them, they just put way too much pressure on themselves most times. That's the problem. It's all just perception, and it's scary. So if you want to manipulate somebody, you don't have to change the physical world. All you have to do is change the way that person views the world, their perception of it. And that's what happened with West Memphis 3. I've completely changed my opinion on the West Memphis 3 case. I believe all three of those guys are guilty. Yep. Well, I mean, they admitted that they're guilty. That's part of the Alford plea. But then you could say, oh, well, you would too if it meant being free. Yeah, that's a true statement. But both can be right. All right. right. So let me pull something up for you guys and then we're going to get out of here. Okay, so this is the Baphomet. Once you guys see it, you'll be like, oh, that thing? StreamYard has this cool new feature. It's got a place for notes. So sick. Yeah. I'm just glad. Like, the StreamYard is getting really expensive. It's like $50 a month, but it's getting better. Like, they're adding all these new features and things. So hopefully they'll just continue on with that. Always felt it was odd that the girls obeyed the down the hill right away, almost like they were hanging out, which leads me to believe Richard Allen might have known in advance the girls were going to be there. Yeah, I mean, I've always sensed, my intuition always told me that there was an inappropriate relationship, something that we're not quite sure of. And like I said, Riley Park and the Monon High Bridge are something that they had in common. All right, what the hell is this thing? Right? What in the hell? What in the damn hell's going on around here? Okay, what is the Baphomet? Baphomet is a symbolic figure with origins in medieval history, often depicted as horned, androgynous entity with goat-like head, wings, and various occult symbols. Its modern association with Satanism stems from its adoption by certain occult and esoteric tradition, but its historical roots are more complex and not exclusively tied to Satanism. But it is, right? But it is. That's a great movie. Oh yeah, that is with the pagan leader from Dragnet. Yep, the Baphomet. That's true. I love that movie. So right, like Lucifer, androgynous, very masculine but feminine at the same time. Kind of like the Statue of Liberty. And where do we hear the word liberty? The word liberty is in Thelema. Where do we know Thelema from? Aleister Crowley. Where most of these satanic worshippers are learning black magic and sex magic. Prepare the virgin. Don't they throw her in like a snake pit with a bunch of pythons? Pitbull says, when I heard Jesse's confession match the autopsies, I crossed sides. Well, that didn't even affect me at first because in Paradise Lost, that was kind of part of the false confession because I already knew that cops could manipulate people. You know, I always knew as a young kid, you don't even say hello unless somebody's accusing you, right? If somebody's accusing you of something and you use self-defense and you know you're not, you know, you're in the right, you could still get arrested by remaining silent. So there are very rare occasions that you should speak, right? If you had to mace somebody or use your weapon or you beat the shit out of somebody and they call the cops and say, hey, well, this guy attacked me and he assaulted me. And they're covered in blood, covered in mace, so they got a bullet in the foot. Well, the cops come up to you and they'd be like, hey, what did you know, what happened? And you're like, well, I plead the fifth. They're going to say, well, you're under arrest. Because I did my investigation. One side told me something that happened, the other side refused. But other than that, you want to shut the hell up. Right? Don't even say hello. How you doing today? Nope, I'm not saying nothing. Are you going to talk to us today? I'm not even going to say yes or no. I'm just going to be like, give them a weird smile. I'm not even going to say you can talk to my lawyer. I'm not saying shit. Okay, let's start with historical the Baphomet. I just want to educate you guys on what this is, and you're going to be able to see. You're going to start seeing this everywhere, especially in entertainment, Hollywood, Disney. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Here, let me pull something up here. Oh my gosh. Ah, that's very nostalgic for me. Used to love Dragnet. Yep, pagan, and then they have the goat head. Here, let me share my screen real quick. This is what he's talking about. uh, hilarious. Pazuzu. Kalima. Kalima. Bootleg. Chewing gum, Snickers bar, and my attorney. Badge kisser. That's good stuff. All right, historical origins. The name Baphomet first appeared during the trials of the Knights Templar in the early 14th century. The Templars, a Christian military order, were accused of heresy, including worshiping an idol called Baphomet. But right, it's not the whole Templars that are worshiping Baphomet. It's usually a small sect, right? The Illuminati. Some historians believe this was a distortion of Muhammad or Muhammad, used to falsely accuse the Templars of aligning with Islam during the Crusades. Others suggest it referred to a symbolic or mystical figure. Occult revival. In the 19th century, French occultist Eliphas Levi popularized Baphomet as a symbol of balance and duality, right? As above, so below. Satan, that's Satanism. In this book, Dogme et Ritual de la Huet Magi, 1854, Levi's Baphomet was a winged, goat-headed figure with a human body, embodying opposites like male and female, good and evil, right? As above, so below, and light and dark, like yin and yang. It was not explicitly satanic, but represented esoteric knowledge and balance, which in itself is satanic, right? The hidden knowledge. In order for me to lead this rebellion, I must arm you. In order for my military to conduct military operations against humankind, which is what sparked the jealousy to begin with, he needs to arm his soldiers. How do you do that? You teach them about hatred, war, jealousy, how to defiance, defy your maker, to thine own self be true, sorry, that's the wrong one. That's Shakespeare. What I meant was do what thou wilt. Sorry. Do what thou wilt is the whole of the law. I got my wires crossed. Okay, where were we? Okay, it was not explicitly satanic, but represented esoteric knowledge and balance, which is satanic. That is Satanism by definition. Aleister Crowley and beyond. Occultist Aleister Crowley further developed Baphomet symbolism in the early 20th century, associating it with Thelemic philosophy. Remember, we did a live stream on what Thelema was. Crowley's Baphomet was a complex esoteric symbol, not strictly a satanic deity, but his controversial reputation helped link it to darker interpretation because it was and is. I thought the Templars were John the Baptist. They do. What they're referring to are the rumors and what historians have said overall, the origins of the Baphomet. But the truth is, there were just probably a small percentage of Templars who did. And I believe that was the Illuminati, or the origins, the original Illuminati, or something similar, or where how it started. You know, trying to avoid persecution, scientific persecution, religious persecution. People wanted to further technology, right? Michelangelo and people doing autopsies, digging up bodies and things, bodies disappearing. Like that was frowned upon. Witchcraft, witchcraft. But it really is, you know, our technological endeavors, in a way, that's what it is. Witchcraft, Satanism, things along those lines. You know, rebelling against God. There's a time for everything, and there's a way to do things, right? It's not what you do most times, it's how you do it. Thank you, Jari. Okay, connection to Satanism. In modern times, Baphomet became associated with Satanism through Anton LaVey, his Church of Satan, founded in 1966. The church adopted a sigil of Baphomet, a pentagram with the goat's head, encircled by Hebrew letters spelling Leviathan, as its primary symbol. For LaVeyan Satanists, Baphomet represents carnality, individualism, and rebellion against traditional religious authority, not a literal deity. LaVeyan Satanism is is atheistic, viewing Satan and Baphomet as archetypes of human nature and supernatural beings. The Satanic Temple is a separate organization, also uses Baphomet imagery, notably in the 2015 statue unveiled in Detroit. Their Baphomet symbolizes pluralism, resistance to theocracy, and intellectual freedom, aligning with their activist and non-theistic stance. What about pop culture? Baphomet's image has been sensationalized in media, often wrongly equated with devil worship or malevolent forces. This has fueled conspiracy theories and moral panics despite its symbolic role in most satanic groups. It's not satanic, but it's been adopted by the Church of Satan. Because it's not what you do, it's how you do it. You can say one thing and your actions will really explain who you are and what you are. Right? The forked tongue, the atheist preacher. He can preach to the choir, can preach to the church, preach the gospel, and then behind closed doors, he can pull out the book of Satan and worship the devil. Kind of like Richard Allen. So anyway, that is your basic rundown of the Baphomet. So if you don't know, now you know. Thank you, Jari. Yeah, if you guys can hit the Cash App, we are 100% crowdfunded. There's also a link for a Venmo. But if you can't hit the Cash App, hit the like button. Thank you, Jari. All right, guys, I think that's going to be it. Anything else? Anything you want to add? Anything you think should be said before we bounce? Before we... And FYI, whenever I can get away, Usually after my wife feeds my son, they kind of hang out for a little while. So those are my opportunities to sneak away. So I'll try to do that when I can. I've pretty much taken care of all of the chores that I need to. So whenever I have time to go live right now, I will. Of course, I'll have more time um, as the baby becomes less finicky, which they do as they get older. I'll have more time and opportunity. Otherwise, you guys, if you need me, shoot me an email. Thank you, Jari. That's it right there. sleuthintuition@gmail.com. If you guys are interested in hoodies for the cold weather, just email me there, and I can give you guys prices and things like that. We have a whole like box filled of hoodies from last year, and I'll probably just blow those out. So those we'll probably make those super cheap, and then we'll order some new stuff. Start giving some of it away. But that's going to do it, everybody. And I will see you again real soon. Take care. If you're part of that replay crew, you know what to do. Drop a comment, and we'll get back to you. Peace, guys.